Miss Elms here again. We're here today to do fractions day 3, so let's get started. Fractions day 3, partitioning fractions. So we're going to be using Google Slides today. If you're in my class, which is in Google Classroom, there's an assignment called fractions day 3. If you're not in my class, you can create your own worksheet with a piece of paper and a pencil to follow along. Would you rather? Would you rather have 1/4 of a pizza or 1/8 of a pizza? Why? So would you rather have one piece from the first pizza or would you rather have one piece from the second pizza? So this is your time to turn and talk. I would rather have, and you need to explain why. That's why we have the because there. And if you don't have someone at home, you can just talk to yourself. Which one would you rather have? You might notice that there's a Google Classroom logo in the bottom right corner. That tells you that if you're in my class, you have an assignment later that relates to this question. What is a fraction? Fraction is an equal part of a whole. Tip: fractions need to be divided into equal parts. If the parts are not equal, then it's not a fraction. So the fraction pieces all need to be the same size. Let's review the parts of a fraction. The numerator. The numerator is the number on the top of the fraction. It shows the number of parts you have out of the whole. The denominator, that's the other part of the fraction. The denominator is the bottom part of a fraction. It shows how many equal parts the whole has been divided into. Let's practice partitioning shapes. And if you don't remember what partition means to divide into equal parts. And we talked about this. Fractions need to be divided into equal parts. And if they're not equal, then it's not a fraction. So we're partitioning in halves today. So when we say half, that means we have two equal parts that make one whole. So now I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to draw a line in the middle of the square. So now I have two parts. They're equal, which means they're the same size. There's 1/2 on this side and 1/2 on the other. For the circle, I'm going to draw a line down the middle. There's 1/2 on this side and 1/2 on that side. They're the same size, so they're fractions. 2 halves make one whole. All right, we're going to practice partitioning shapes again, but this time we're going to partition them in fourths. So if you see the number 4 in there in fourths, that tells us that we're going to divide the shape into 4 equal parts. 4 parts that make one whole. I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to draw the rectangle in half to start. Then I'm going to partition those halves in half again. So that one's in half. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So I have 4 equal parts. They're all 1 out of the 4 parts. Now the circle, I'm going to cut it in half or partition it in half. Then I'm going to partition it in half again. So now I have 4 equal parts. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Let's practice another one. Eighths. That means there's going to be 8 equal parts that make the whole. So I'm going to do it with a circle. So I'm going to partition it in half. Then I'm going to partition it in fourths. So now I have 4 equal parts. And then I'm going to partition each of those fourths in half. Like that. And like that. So now I have 8 equal parts. 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. And I go all the way around. I should have 8 1/8 parts. 8 parts makes a whole. Now I'm going to do thirds. 3 equal parts that make a whole. This one's a little bit tricky. And how I think about it is I think about drawing a Y in my circle. So I draw a line like this, I draw a line like this, and a line like this. So then I have 3 equal parts. So I partition that into thirds using a Y. So I have 3 1/3 parts that make a whole. Sixths. So my sixth, I'm going to draw that Y again because I know that if I have thirds and I cut those in half or partition those in half, I get sixths. Like this. So now I have 6 equal parts. And each part is 1 part out of 6 parts. That's why each of them has 1/6. So we've talked about how great mathematicians reason abstractly and quantitatively. They think about the numbers and they think about visuals or pictures. So they show fractions in different ways. They use unit form, which is 1/5. They use pictures, which is 1 out of the 5 parts. And they use the fraction bar, which is 1/5. Unit form. And I just said this. Unit form is when you're writing a fraction using numbers and words. So the first picture shows 1/2. The second picture shows 1/4. And the fifth shape shows 1/5. Here are some good websites to continue your math learning. I hope you enjoyed learning about fractions today and partitioning them into equal parts. So now, if you're in my class, show me what you learned about fractions today in our Google Classroom. Stay tuned for Fractions Day 4. All right, I hope you liked learning about fractions. Stay tuned for Fractions Day 4.